On this episode of CynSpeaks, we are going to discuss the ego versus the heart battle or struggle or balance. Whatever term you feel comfortable using, we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the fact that both are necessary and polarity is also necessary. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, if you haven't checked out my episodes about the ego versus the heart, you should do that just so you have an understanding of what the heck I'm talking about when I say ego and what I'm referring to when I say heart. For a quick summary, ego is focused on all the things that are internal, me. Heart is external, the things that are regarding serving the world and what really feels good within your soul. And it sounds like heart also is internal. It is, but ego is pretty much more selfish and heart is more selfless. And as you know, both are completely necessary for balance in your life. So understanding what that balance feels like for you is important. And that's going to look different for everybody. As with everything that I talk about, it looks different for every person. It shows up different for you. So some examples of the ego versus the heart struggle, they actually show up every single day. They're going to show themselves in life over and over and over again. And observing your thoughts and your beliefs and your actions with regards to specific situations will kind of give you an idea of where you stand. So the balance is completely necessary. Some will refer to it as masculine versus feminine. In that situation, masculine would be your ego and your feminine would be your heart. One without the other is no good. You need a little bit of ego with everything that you do, and you need a lot of heart, if you ask me, with everything that you do. Some roles that we play may be more ego or heart focused, and that's just how it is. Your work position, right, your job at work, may require you to be a little more ego driven. If you're in the corporate world and you're competing in the corporate world, that is an ego-driven industry. I don't care what you do. I worked in HR for a very long time. And although the reason that I got into HR was to help people, I was competing with sharks, essentially. And I had to learn how to get into my ego energy because that was not initially natural for me. So I had to kind of learn about that. And I actually started my corporate career in New York City, so it's literally the best place to learn how to swim with the sharks because I was surrounded by them and some of the best in the industry. But it wasn't initially comfortable because I was such a heart-driven person naturally. And with that time, with the time of me learning about the ego versus the heart struggle, I actually got really comfortable with my ego hat, we'll say. And I got really comfortable going hard. I got really comfortable being a business-driven woman. I became an alpha woman, and I wasn't always that. There was a point in time where I really, really desired to just be a wife and a mother. And that was my goal in life. And I wanted to be the best wife and the best mother possible. When I was young, they actually told me that I couldn't have kids, which they were wrong because I have 3 amazing, healthy, beautiful children now. But I kind of got to a space where I had accepted the fact that maybe that's not the life that I was going to get to live. And so when I had the opportunity to start a corporate career, I jumped, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity. What that required me to do is look at some of my habits and how I was functioning. And I got to a space where I was, again, really comfortable with that ego functioning. And I became very business driven. And I went back to school heavily to the point of, getting my bachelor's and my master's degree and then going for a PhD, which was crazy. And that was all because of my ego energy, my masculine energy that I had tapped into and started to feel really, really comfortable in. So if you're an alpha female and you are very comfortable in the corporate world and dominating in that world and being a force to be reckoned with, because at the end of the day you are competing with men a lot of the time in corporate America. So if you're in that world and you're successful, you probably have tapped into your ego energy pretty well. Now, a challenge that a lot of alpha females face is finding balance. And that comes in with regards to schedule, right? If you're good at what you do at work, you're naturally going to want to spend more time at work. That's just natural. That's your human natural desire. You're going to want to go where you're good. And then finding balance, if you do want a family or you have a family, finding balance with that heart energy as well may be challenging. It is not easy if you're tapped into your ego energy and you're comfortable there and you like the progress that you're making in the corporate world and you like the feeling of being successful and you like the feeling of signing contracts and you like the feeling of winning a negotiation deal. Some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. If that feels really good for you, it may be challenging to switch that off. And this concept became relevant to me through dance. And if you know anything about ballroom dance, you know the man is the leader. Point blank period. It's changing a little bit now, but the history of the dance is that the men lead and the women go with the flow. They have to be intuitive to what moves are coming next, because what comes next is determined by the man. So the man is leading. And if you're an alpha female, that's not the space you're necessarily comfortable. So relationships may be challenging. It may be challenging to let go of the reins and be like, okay, you figure out a plan. And being okay with whatever plan comes up, because sometimes it may not be organized, right, to the way that an alpha female would organize it, but it's important to find that balance in the home life versus the work world. Some families I've seen where the woman isn't necessarily the heart-driven person in that relationship, and that's okay too. It's whatever balance works for you. In same-sex relationships, there's going to be one that's a little more ego-driven and one that's more heart-driven, or masculine and feminine energy, if you want to call it that. So it's similar energy, similar thought processes, similar behaviors, regardless of what exactly your relationship looks like, which at the end of the day is completely up to each individual. So I talk about alpha females because that's my experience and that's where I'm comfortable, and I know that really well, and I know the struggle really well, so I can empathize there. So both are really, really necessary, and that challenge of tapping into the heart energy as well, if you've been ego driven for so long, it may be challenging for you. It may be challenging, but it is so important, and it's also so extremely rewarding to get to a space where you understand the value of both. And you understand the value of both for yourself. Understanding both energies and tapping into both energies will benefit you. And your soul will thank you for it. So both are completely necessary. Finding that balance as far as what situation you're in and what feels good for you is so extremely important. So spending time just tending to your thoughts and kind of evaluating if they're a little more ego or they're a little more heart-based. Depending on the situation, you may need to add a little more heart in there, or you may need to add a little more ego in there. If you're trying to tap into being more patient, that's heart-driven. So you might want to think about your thoughts as far as, okay, am I being understanding? Am I kind of looking at the situation from the other person's perspective? What's really going on here? And then on the other side of the coin, if you're, for example, negotiating a salary for a new career, you might want to tap into a little bit of that ego so that you're comfortable having those conversations and you don't feel guilty asking for the salary that you are worth. And that may be challenging for some people. So finding that balance is so extremely important. Also, another concept with regards to ego and heart is polarity. So if you notice, in most couples, there is a more masculine or ego-driven energy, and there is a more heart-driven or feminine energy, and they come together. And I don't care what type of relationship it is, and the balance can be slightly tipped. It could be 60-40, right? But both are completely necessary, and they're drawn to each other. And the reason is that each person can fill in where the other may fall short. And that's the beauty in relationships throughout our walk here on this earth. And in these bodies, we get to experience these cool relationships that serve us so well. They serve as mirrors for the things that we need to look at internally and focus on. They add richness to the human experience. And that polarity is so extremely beautiful when it is recognized and appreciated and honored. It's not always easy to see the value in the other person, but if you just look at that other person in the relationship as a mirror to yourself, oh wow, hold on, he leaves the toilet seat up and it drives me nuts. But you know what? I think I leave hair in the sink sometimes. So I can be kind of understanding that our habits may not align perfectly. Little things like that are you just honoring the habits of the other person. And, you know, if there's one person that's really good at planning, it doesn't matter who it is, being empathetic and understanding that, okay, this is their strength, let them have that. So part of the ego versus heart balance is understanding and honoring the strengths in yourself and the strengths in others, and the fact that we are drawn to those that are like us. So even though you may not like the habits of somebody else, the only reason that we were blessed with relationships is to have a mirror. Let that sink in just a little bit. A mirror. So if you look at your partner as a mirror, you may see situations differently. Their habit that drives you a little nuts, you might have the exact same habit and not even realize it. Or you may be doing something that's equally as irritating and you may not even realize it. But if you look at them as a mirror, wait, why does that action trigger an emotional stir within me? What is it that I need to look at, maybe from my past or my present beliefs, that are like these triggers probably shouldn't happen if I'm really balanced and I'm comfortable with where I'm at. Getting offensive to things, that's a huge one. If you take offense to too many things, that's due to a lack of balance. And that person that may be saying things without the intention of offending you, right? They may offend you, but that's a sign for you to look within you. Nothing that anybody says or does outside of yourself should affect your balance. So think about that. So spending time with yourself and getting really comfortable with the energy flow within you and your thoughts, and being really mindful of your thoughts that turn into beliefs, that turn into actions. All of that is so important. And just honoring the value that each person brings to any type of situation or relationship will help you not only get through the relationship, but really savor it while you're in it and have the best experience possible. So I hope that kind of helps you with the whole ego-heart battle. We're going to talk about it more with regards to specific scenarios, but I think that helps you understand the balance and why that balance is so awesome to be mindful of and helpful in your everyday lives. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Cynamon Voe, always in the show notes. Make sure you share and you like the podcast, subscribe, because that helps us so extremely much to bring you free episodes and free content. And that is my goal, is to serve through this free content avenue. And the more you guys help me, the more I can record for you. So stay supportive. And I thank you guys for being so patient with regards to all of the elements of launching something new. I'm so thankful for you guys joining. Until next time.